Leon Charney Report. And now, here is your host, Leon Charney.
Welcome to another Leon Charney Report. We have with us today a very prominent Israeli political figure who's since retired, but is a man who served practically under all the prime ministers except maybe Bibi Netanyahu and Yitzhak Rabin for sure in his first government. His name is Dr. Yosef Burg, and he was a leading member, maybe the leader of the National Religious Party. And it's a privilege to welcome him to the show.
Shalom.
Dr. Borg, you have seen all the history of Israel. Abba Eban, the foreign minister who served with you in many governments, said on my show a few weeks ago that he thought it was the lowest point now in Jewish Israeli history. Would you agree with that?
That now we are on the lowest point?
Yes.
First of all, this is something good, because it means that nothing can be lower.
Right. So the law of gravity is working for you.
Can only go up.
Right.
This part of dynamics I accept.
Right.
Now, I believe we should not be too nervous with our history and the composition of the Jewish people, the geography, distribution of Jewish people all over the world, and this kind of 2,000 years persecution and peregrination. That would mean that you can believe a little bit to be now on a low point, because after having peace, it's too much of a cold peace, better than a cold war, but anyhow we are a lot of question marks. The peace with the Egyptians did not come out so warm as we wanted to have it. We are happy with the peace with Jordan, but the Palestinians as such are getting their inspiration out from Syria, out from Iran, perhaps again out of Russia, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure that not. So it's a low point today, especially if the nation is divided. What should we do with peace and what can we do without peace? What price war we know, what price peace we don't know. We are ready to try it, but the nation is divided concerning tactics, strategy at this point.
In the original days of the founding of Israel, I believe you signed the Israeli...
No, I was in Paris smuggling people in arms.
But you would have signed if you were there.
Sure.
The religious problem, which you really are an expert on, the country really has become divided between the secular and the very right wing. Your party, the Mavdal, is not like it was before. What happened?
First of all, it happens. Our party is still pledged to the unity of the Jewish people. We are not too much extremist, like, let me say, people of the very right wing, Haredim called. What happened? First of all, I will give you the good side of what happened. In 1967, suddenly Eretz Israel became larger than it was before.
Right, after the 6-Day War.
After the 6-Day War.
What was your ministry, by the way, during that time?
67, I was Minister of Social Welfare.
Social Welfare.
70, I became Minister of the Interior for 14 years.
Right. And you worked on Camp David, I remember.
I was not in Camp David, but I was in the government.
Menachem Begin appointed you.
Yes, I was chairman of the cabinet committee for the negotiations,
right.
And I led the negotiations with the Egyptians.
Right.
We wanted always the Palestinians or the Jordanians to come, but they did not show up. But anyhow, 1967, Medinat Israel became larger, almost Eretz Israel. And many people saw God's hand in this happening. And therefore, who believed in Eretz Israel, like the famous Rav Tzvi Yehuda Krug, the son of the famous Avraham Yitzhak HaKohen Krug, they believed Etzba Elokim, the finger of God here, and now we have to make settlements. The word settlement, I understand, in the political jargon in Washington became a dirty word, But don't forget, my dear Americans, that you also had your settlements when you settled in the United States. Before the Mayflower, there were not too much Europeans in the American continent. So settlements are part of history. Anyhow, who believed in Eretz Israel and was an idealistic man, he went to the all of the territory of Judea, Samaria, and the Gaza district, building up the settlements. If you want to see idealistic young people, go to the settlements. That is the good part. But the very complicated thing is you need a majority in the parliament, and they are a minority. And therefore they became a little bit too radical, but I understand that time and circumstances will bring my party back to middle of the road. It's my firm belief, middle of the road does not mean mediocrity. Middle of the road is a constructive way for living together, Jews with Jews and Jews with Arabs. Who does not understand the need of coexistence denies the possibility of existence.
Do you have any problem with a Palestinian state?
I would say yes. And I would say why. Because first of all, I would like to be sure that there should not be a redenta, that from the Palestinian state should not come every day new demands, and perhaps using Palestinians and Arabs that are living in the territory of the State of Israel, that they should be exploited. You see, I was born in Dresden in Europe. I was in Prague 15th of March 38 when the Germans entered. I was there when Chamberlain promised peace for our generation. Not a simple peace, peace with honor. And you know, this peace with honor lasted from September more or less 38 to March 39. And the Sudetendeutsche were exploited in order to have a pretext to take all over Czechoslovakia. So I am very fearful. And we have to be very, very cautious concerning conditions of security, absolute security, if and when there should be a Palestinian state. I would like to say more, and I'm not a diehard. I'm a man of compromise. I know that we have to pay something, but something for something, not paying something for nothing. And I would like to say I will give you two formulas for the situation as I see it today. But after all, you know the word chutzpah, it's not in the Latin dictionary, but it's in the dictionary.
Even in the American?
Yeah, it's in the American dictionary. I believe it's a little bit of a chutzpah, a little bit is a nice understatement, to ask on behalf of the Palestinian Arabs, Jerusalem is a capital of a state that never existed, and that never the city was the capital of any Arab state, never in history. In history there was a state of Jerusalem when the Crusaders came here in 1099 to Jerusalem. But Jerusalem, never was the capital of any Arab state. There was never any Arab state, Palestine. And therefore I believe we should know where we live. The situation is complicated. I will give you two wisecracks, not of mine, but I adapted them.
All right.
One is of the old Chalutz Abraham Hartzfeld, Zichrono Livracha, and one I heard in academic circles. Hartzfeld said, and excuse me to saying in Yiddish, wer es wird nicht mischige, ist nicht normal.
Who is not crazy is not normal.
He's not getting crazy.
He's not getting crazy is not normal.
Wer es wird nicht mischige, ist nicht normal. But I want to say it in a nicer, higher level, academic level. Whosoever is not getting confused by the situation, I repeat, whosoever is not getting confused by the situation proves that he does not understand the situation. After this clear statement, you can continue.
So I'm confused.
You can continue with your question.
I'm very confused. I don't know where to go from here. But let me go back to Menachem Begin and Camp David, where you and I were involved. I was involved with President Carter and Ezer Weitzman, and you were in the government. And Menachem Begin, whom I consider a great prime minister, said that he thought there should be an autonomy.
full autonomy.
Full autonomy. What did he mean by that?
I regret that you had no time to ask him.
So do I.
But I can only say autonomy would mean a maximum of municipal matters, or I would like to say it in a very simple way. We were Begin, Sharon, Shamir, Nissim, and I, we were in the Blair house.
Big house, by the way. A lot of bedrooms.
You don't say blah, blah, Blair. But anyhow, we were there, and we were asked a question. And my answer was, Weinberger was still there, and I believe General Haig, if I don't, we were together. And I was asked, what does it mean, autonomy? And I said, everything without Haig and Weinberger. And they looked, I said, without having external politics and without having an army of their own.
Defense and Foreign Ministry.
That means the
Everything
Defense
else
Ministry and the Foreign Ministry.
There are countries that have that. The Netherlands Antilles has that.
Who?
The Netherlands Antilles.
Good. But let
But
them live
do
long.
you know how Menachem Begin came to this concept? Did it come from his concept in Poland of Jewish
No,
autonomy?
I wouldn't say. I believe there are certain writings of Jabotinsky. We spoke about it, but I'm not sure.
Really?
But anyhow, it's a good idea, but it's a very difficult thing. If someone talks to me from the European states about all the autonomy and so on, and terror, you have still the Irish terror, you have the Basquish terror in Spain, you have something in Corsica. The only good autonomy, I believe, is in Sweden or Norway with the Laplands. But anyhow, there's no other possibility.
Well, and you have conceded. I am confused.
No, I believed in the possibility because, as a natural thing, there would be things that the Arab autonomy alone, by themselves, could deal with: traffic, post, work, public work, and so on and so on. A lot of things.
Internal
There are
matters.
things where we have to be together, fighting contagious diseases, water problems, development problems, we could do together. But security, we can have to live by our own. We cannot have a foreign army west of the Jordan. It wouldn't work.
Had you been in the cabinet during the Oslo peace, or whatever it was, arrangement, would you have voted for it or against it?
First of all, I believe, I don't know if they would have asked me, and I don't know if they would heard of my advice, but I believe a stronger attitude on behalf of the Israelis was necessary and was not realized.
Do you consider...
I will tell you, in 1980, about 1980, I gave a press conference as the chairman of our committee for the negotiations in Israel, in London, and I was asked, would you be ready in 1980 to meet with PLO and with Arafat? And I said yes, under two conditions. One condition, that the paragraph speaking about the abolition of the State of Israel, destruction, annihilation of the State of Israel, this paragraph should be abolished itself. And second, there should be 2-3 years without terror. And not only because terror is a bad thing, because it kills people, but in order to know if Arafat can deliver.
Right.
If he can stop the terror, it seems that he can deliver. For this, I pay a price. But for goods that don't exist and goods that are not delivered, I'm not ready to get a price. Both conditions until today are not really realized.
I've said on this show many times that Oslo was a historical mistake for two reasons. And basically, one is that Rabin should say, okay, I agree to meet you or recognize you, Mr. Arafat. The same day you must take away your covenant to destroy me. The same day. You can't let it linger on. The second thing is that there was no economic infrastructure created for these people, so they gave them back land without an economic infrastructure, which is a disaster.
I accept what you say. That only means that great minds meet.
Thank God we met. It's a pleasure to meet you.
And what you
we
say
have
about
to credit your sister
economic,
for
that is also true. because we have to give satisfaction to the Arabs that are living here.
You have to give them a living, and they have to be fed.
I accept it.
God bless us both. Now, your son is a member of the Labor Party, and now he's head of the Jewish Agency.
That are not bad things.
No, I didn't say they were. Do you ever discuss these things with your son? His name is Avram Burg, very famous in Israel today.
Yes, the first of his life he was the son of Dr. Yosef Burg. Now I'm the father of Avram Burg. That is very good, and as long as it is a two-way traffic, and it is. Sometimes we are discussing not too much, because the unity of the family is important for us, not less than the unity of the nation.
All right, let me go through a little bit of history with you, because you really are one of the few people in Israel who can really comment on so many different political personalities. David Ben-Gurion, what kind of man was he?
I believe he was world class.
World class.
Sometimes he was remembering his birth city, Plonsk, but anyhow, it's world class. You see, I remember the First World War. I remember surely the Second World War. And I dare to say that Ben-Gurion is in the class of de Gaulle, of Churchill, of Truman, of great statesmen.
Chaim Weizmann.
I had no opportunity to deal with him. When I came into this kind of politics, he was already an old man. But he has a name, Chaim Weizmann. I remember at the Congress, my first Zionist Congress was in 1937 as a member.
Right.
And when there was a crisis or something in the Mizrahi, Weizmann comes, and he spoke in Yiddish from his birth city, Motale, and it was Hamish, so it was quite another atmosphere. He was a big chochem. And from him, I believe I heard it from him, or perhaps I formulated. In 1937 was the same discussion, as a matter of fact, as today. There was a Peel report speaking about the partition of the country.
Right.
And either Weizmann or Burg, I don't remember which one, formulated the question in this way. Either to have 100% governorship in 50% of the territory, or having 50% partition in governing and 100% of the territory. 50 out of 100 or 100 out of 50. This is the question until today.
It's a classical question.
A classical question with a classical situation with a still not found solution.
Abba Eben on my show said that Moshe Sharet, the next prime minister after David Ben-Gurion, would meet with a foreign dignitary, and then he'd come to report to David Ben-Gurion, and he was very yekish, shall we say, about all the details. So he would start the detail off by saying, first we sat in the chair, and then I was served some coffee, then I was lit up a cigarette, and Ben-Gurion used to get a little bit crazy with this. Do you have any recollections of these events?
First recollection is that I believe that Ben-Gurion was drinking tea, not coffee.
Good recollection.
I was not present. I would say that Sharet had no time to show his real talents.
Too short a period.
Too short, yes. Could be that Sharet was a man of the pen and Ben-Gurion more of the sword, if I may say
right.
so. But you see, there is a problematic between ministers of security defense and ministers of foreign affairs.
Right.
The weapon of the foreign minister always is a pen.
Right.
And that was Sharet. It is a pity, perhaps, that he went away so quick, but I cannot answer your question.
Levi Eshkol.
He was much, much, much better than his rhetorics, than his oratory. Sometimes it was good that he couldn't answer immediately. We were told that President Johnson asked him what kind of Israel, and Eshkol did not find the proper answer in the very moment. But from my point of view, he was doing a lot of things in strengthening the army, in strengthening the tanks of the army, and he had a wonderful, clear sense not only of humor, but of wisdom. Like, I would say, like ein Bauer, how should I pronounce it? Like a peasant, but not in the better sense of the word.
Yes. He common person.
Yeah, absolutely. That was also the speciality of Golda Meir. She could down every problem to bread and butter. Formulation.
You know what Abba even said about Golda Meir?
No, I don't know, but I fear I know what he was thinking about.
All right. You know what he said?
You see what I said?
Yes, I got you. No. You'll get a kick out of this. He said the problem with Golda Meir is she hated good news.
Very nice. Well, she won their hearts, being one Yiddish mama par excellence.
How many portfolios did you hold in the Israeli government?
Oh, you want me to start to count?
I would like to, for historical record.
51, 52 Minister of Health, 52, 58 Minister of Post and Telecommunications, 59 to 70 Minister of Social Welfare, 70 to 84 Minister of Interior, including religious questions, 77, 84 also Minister of Police, 84, 86 Minister of Religious Affairs, Sachakel, in total 40 years Knesset, 35 years government.
And how many ministries? How many different ones?
You want me to start to
count
them again? 5, so then 5.
Maybe, it's one of our producers says 5. Which was the most interesting?
Most interesting Interior.
Interior.
Because there you deal with the problems. You see, telephone is technique and money. Like the ATT and something of this line. Saad is a very problematic problem because you need always more money than you have. Post is nice because you give money. You take money from the citizen, then you provide for telephone and so on and so on. Interior are the problems of the infrastructure of a country. We had many, many new places where people that never lived in a democratic system had to build their own way of living. Take Kiryat Gat, it's mentioned in the Bible, but there was no real city. Take Ashdod, and also take Beersheba, where we started in 48, either with 3 Arabs and 2 camels, or 3 camels and 2 Arabs, I don't remember. But anyhow, a city much more than 100,000 inhabitants, university, yeshiva, and so on, built with people that never were living in a democratic system, neither in the Oriental countries nor in the Soviet countries. And building a new nation out of an old nation, of an old people, in a new country that's also old, that is an exorbitant task.
Dr. Borg, the lightning man of the Labour Party, Ehud Barak, Barak means lightning, made an apology to the Sephardic community for the way they were treated over the past 45, 50 years. Any comments on that?
Yes, it's lightning. It's a question if I should be delighted by this or only enlightened, I don't know. I believe that from his point of view, he believed that he had to do it. From my point of view, it was senseless. First of all, if it is true what they say, then his apologies doesn't mean anything. Coming late after 50 years, you can apologize for many things. There's no value in it. But I believe it's a bad thing. It's perhaps a show of a bad conscience.
Of course.
Because if I did not sin, why should I be apologetic? And it doesn't help. It was senseless, it was useless, it was not necessary. But if he believes it does help him, Gesundheit.
With God's help for our public. Your feelings about the problem about Yemenite children. I'm sure you were in the government at that time. Is that a real problem? Was it a real problem?
I believe perhaps there were certain things. Nobody knows. There was a lot of disorder. You see, all the people that were there never had the influx of so many people that they couldn't really understand, common language and so on. And I don't know of any bad intention of anyone. And I believe there are perhaps certain politicians that want to exploit certain disorderly things that seems that appeared, but I believe it is almost like a Ritualmordlüge. You know what this is?
Yes.
I don't know how to translate it.
So,
but once I was asked about it, I said I cannot imagine that the people that are blonde by nature should adopt a Yemenite child. I believe this is an invention. Could be perhaps 1 or 2 or 3. Can be with thousands of people and children. There's something.
But you had no personal knowledge of this.
God
forbid.
Never, never, never.
Your country has entered into a new political arena where they now have, which no other country in the world has, direct election of prime minister.
You have direct election of the president.
But we have a different system. We have a check and balance system. You have a hybrid system. You don't have an
Hebrew, not hybrid.
you don't have an executive a portion of a government, and you don't have a check and balance yet the way it's set up. And today, you're going to agree with me that the Likud party is really not what the Likud party was before. And
what was it before?
But before, probably more ideological. Now it's a little disparate. Or you don't agree with me on that?
I am not a Likudnik.
But you're a wise man.
Yes, a wise man, and sometimes his wisdom he shows by not saying what he thinks.
All right, is that your answer?
No, I will give you a certain percentage. I believe that no party today is exactly what it was before. It goes for my party, it goes for Labour, it goes for Likud. Either it's a question of leadership. You see, leaders don't come by dozens. And leaders are not coming because you're asking, either they are there or they are not there. So you have certain historical periods with a lot of leaders, and you have certain periods where there's no leadership. For the moment, I believe we are in this period. 1. Second, I personally are against the direct election of the Prime Minister. And you are right with your argument, because it's a different system. And I believe now many people that advocated the direct elections are very unhappy about their own, and I wish them happiness in their unhappiness.
Well, you have Prime Minister Shamir and Moshe Aarons and Shimon Peres. They've all come together, and they say they want to bring back the old law because it doesn't work here. Dr. Borg, a very important question, I believe, and especially you who headed the National Religious Party. Is there a place in government to have a religious party? Let's say you made a compromise that you allow buses to run in Ashkelon but not in Jerusalem. Doesn't that go out of the sphere of what religion should be, or does it not?
First of all, we are much more than a religion. We are sometimes very complicated, but we are very interesting, in my eyes, unique unit of national and religious elements all together. How many percentage religion, how many percentage nationhood, that every Jew discusses with every other Jew. But anyhow, we are something special. When we came here into this country, we came according to the old covenant between God and Israel. That's our faith. Otherwise, we could remain in Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie, how you call it. Or somewhere else. I would say more. This state, Israel, is interesting for the Jews all over the world when we have a lot of our traditional heritage with us. And therefore we have to take a little bit of our heritage, spiritual, cultural, religiously and nationality, into one unit in this country. That's my answer.
So what's your feeling now about this law of conversion where the Reform and Conservative will not be...
I am very unhappy about it, because there's a mixture where political and religious argumentation are meeting together, but not always with justification. You see, the discussion between the different currents in Judaism is an old one. It started in Germany about 1840-45 with great figures, and the conservatives were not moving together with the tempo of the reform in Germany. And I'm very astonished that today the conservatives in America are going together with reform. I remember, and I stated here in public, Rabbi Finkelstein, then the leader of the conservative Judaism,
Jewish Theological Seminary,
Jewish Theological Schechter Seminary, was here, and he promised to Minister Shapiro and Minister Burg that the conservatives in this country, in Israel, will never do anything against the interests of the Orthodox Judaism in this country. I stated in public, and I am responsible, but it seems that Finkelstein was ousted, let me say ideologically, and together there is too much, there's a marriage of convenience between the reform and the conservative. Don't know. I'm not happy because a discussion that started in Germany 150 years ago should not bring ultimatum as it was this week, when the Reform Rabbi said they will stop sending money to the State of Israel if this or this law will be accepted or will not be accepted. Why should the newcomer that comes today from Siberia to Israel suffer because the Reform Rabbi in Los Angeles is not satisfied with the politics of the Knesset here? Should they come 20,000, 30,000 Reform Jews here, they will have everything they want. But to dictate, made in USA, to dictate here what should be Giyur or conversion and so on, I believe it's not fair.
So why are you against the law?
I am in favor that in this country there should only be one kind of conversion, and that's the only recognized form of Orthodox conversion. You see, and I speak a little bit of an expert, first of all, I'm an ordained Orthodox rabbi. Second, I was 14 years prime minister, and I had the problem of the reform conversion on a very low flame.
Interior minister.
Yeah.
No, you said prime minister. Then
according to Freud, something wrong with me.
I changed history books.
No, I wouldn't change myself. And then, when Begin came, he believed that he can find a solution, made a committee, and I was a member of the committee. But so I know the problem. I would like to say, without bragging, I am the only man on the globe, without bragging, who left the government of the State of Israel in 1958 because of the Mihu Yehudi discussion.
Who is a Jew?
Who is a Jew? I left the government together with Shapiro. And Shapiro passed away. Today I am the only man in the globe.
Really?
Yes. So I would like to say, you cannot have in a country three different kinds of conversion. If a country has a law, the law should be one at least. Now the Reform Rabbi in the United States, he accepts someone, a lady or a man, for his synagogue, but not in Judaism, because for Judaism we have 2,000 years an accepted form how a conversion should be done. That's my opinion.
Do you think it'll cause conflict with the American Jews?
I believe it is not. I believe it is overdone, all the issue. There should be a more tranquil atmosphere to see the problems. The problems are this. For us in this country, religion is a very living, everyday affair. And for many Jews in the United States, the religious climate is a little bit less. We have with our electricity 220 volt. You have in the States 110 volt, other kind of voltage. So it's also with our religion. Here we have plenty of Jews that are going to shul, to synagogue 3 times a day. And you have in America a lot of Jews that are traveling to the synagogue 3 days a year. So between 3 days a day, 3 times a day and 3 times a year, there should be, there is a difference, and this difference should be understood.
All right, let me go back to a few more personalities, and then we'll let you leave us. Menachem Begin, what did you think of him?
He was a great man, sometimes overwhelmed by his own rhetorics, but he was a big believer, and he had the masses with him. It's a pity that he went out of this world in the tragic way it was.
Did you work with Yitzhak Rabin?
Yes, sometimes with the same opinion, sometimes with other opinions. He was not always as elastic I would have liked him to be, but he was a man of courage, and I believe we should understand this. I was very unhappy of what happened, and I was also unhappy that it was exploited against the national religious Judaism, that this murder came from a certain atmosphere. We were very unhappy about that.
It's a big, you're a member of the board of Bar Ilan University.
Yes.
And Bar Ilan University was the place where Yigal Amir, who assassinated Rabin, studied. Has it affected the university?
It has affected us now that we understand that it has affects other people in order to start propaganda against the Bar Ilan University. I don't believe that somebody in America would have done something against Cambridge or Oxford, because there was also a school of spies there that went over to Moscow. Nobody said that Oxford and Cambridge is bad. Here they dared to say something against Bar Ilan. It was not honest to do it.
The Yigal Amir, you think that was just one guy who had it in his head to assassinate the prime minister?
No.
Or you think it's a group of people?
A group, if you say a group could be 10 people, then it could be a group. I would like to say, since Meir Kahane came, there's always a right-wing extremist group. That happens, and I'm not happy about it. All what we do, what we pray, what we teach, is against this kind of violence. Absolutely against.
How do you visualize Israel in the next 10 years?
Chaim Weizmann once said it is very difficult to be a prophet in Israel, because the competition of the old ones like Yeshayahu and so on is too strong. I believe we have to overcome. We succeeded during the last 50 years in ingathering millions of people in a large national revolutionary experiment. But now we have to give also the spiritual basis for what we did. But first of all, the question is the question of security, of defense, to having between Israel and Ismail a proper understanding.
Dr. Borg, a pleasure to have you. It's an honor to have you on our show, and
Same for me.
We wish you many, many happy years.
Otherwise.
We're back. We're in Jerusalem, live with Rudy Rivlin, the member of Knesset, Likud member of Knesset, who's been a constant reporter for our show over the period of years, and a man who believes that Jerusalem is the capital of the Jewish people and really should not be given up. We're going to do a reality check. We've brought you to the Mount of Olives, and you'll see the whole panorama of Jerusalem and why Ruby and his Likud party believe that there really can be no strong compromise on Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the home and capital of the Jewish people. Ruby, welcome to the show.
Welcome to Jerusalem, Leon, and welcome all of you to Jerusalem. You are here live in Jerusalem, and you see all what you should see, and you can watch the problems. We are on the east side of Jerusalem, the capital of the Israeli state, the capital of the Jewish people. Not on East Jerusalem. We are at the east side of Jerusalem. We are on Mount Olives. Yeah.
Is there any compromise in the Likud in terms of allowing the Palestinians to have any sort of rights in Jerusalem?
Well, if we are talking about autonomy, we passed the point of no return. We are negotiating with the Palestinians. We know that the Palestinian authorities are doing something here in Jerusalem as well, because here in Abu Dis, which is in Zone B, they have their headquarters. And we know that they are trying to do a lot here in Jerusalem. Nevertheless, they understood and they got the message that once we got to position, once we are the government, they can't behave in Jerusalem as if Jerusalem was part of the Palestinian entity. They were convinced that they should postpone the whole question.
When the Oslo Agreement was arranged or agreed to, Shimon Peres told one of his senior aides that the problem of Jerusalem will be on the back burner. Bibi Netanyahu, your prime minister, now says we want to go to final status talks. That includes Jerusalem, I understand.
Of course.
Okay, where do you wind up with Jerusalem from the Likud side?
I really think that this is a consensus of the entire Jewish people all around the world. This is a consensus.
I'm not sure that's true. I mean,
Okay,
we spoke to David Hartman over here. We spoke to other people who are willing to see sort of a joint capital here. They're willing to see a borough type of situation. Someone, I think, from the Peres camp has come up with an idea to allow religious freedom for the Palestinians here. I'm not sure everybody's wall-to-wall on keeping Jerusalem.
That is the whole tragedy. Because we were talking all the time and trying to convince the entire people of Israel and all around the world, not only the Jews, but all the nations, the family nations of the world, that the Palestinians are really going now step by step. They have the step-by-step strategy, and they will get to Jerusalem, and they will get by getting to a Palestinian entity, then to a Palestinian state, then to Jerusalem, and everyone said, no way, no way. Only 10 years ago when late former Prime Minister Rabin, we asked him, Rabin, what will be with Jerusalem? He said, don't worry, no question, there is no way to discuss Jerusalem, there is no way to put Jerusalem on the agenda. When we asked Yossi Beilin, the right hand of Mr. Shimon Peres at the time, when we claimed during the election days that Peres is going to redivide Jerusalem, he said that we are talking blasphemy, that we are saying something against him which is not true. Now everyone agrees that Jerusalem is the microcosmos. Whether we can live together, Jews and Arab, whether they are going to give up and they are ready to stay, to have a Palestinian state side by side with Israel, without Jerusalem, without the Jordan Valley. Here we can see the whole problem.
But Ruby, not everybody's an ideologue like you. The world is full of political statements of politicians who have broken the dreams of many people. Your Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, said that he would never shake the hand of Arafat. He has. Your Prime Minister said he would never do anything on Hebron. He has. Isn't there sort of a dramatic or slow process whereby it's being, and I know it's not your feeling, I know you're a hard line and very honest about your feelings, basically the old Chirut people, you, Benny Begin, Mary Dor, Eitan maybe, but are you in a minority or majority right now in your party?
Well, we are probably now in the minority because no one understands and really care for the strategy of the Likud people, because at the time we believed that the land of Israel belonged to the children of Israel. That was our dream, and we built it step by step, and we were very stubborn, and we got to the idea that we could build and create an Israeli state, and then after the 48 war, the independence war, we said, those territories are occupied by Jordan and by Egypt, but if we will have an historical chance to release them at one of those years when they will start war against us, and the dream came true in 67. Everyone praised and everyone swore that Jerusalem will not be divided ever again. And of course, I can understand that after Oslo, we passed the point of no return. I can understand that many ideological people at the Likud party, the former Harut party, at the Begin party, at the Jabotinsky party, they faced reality, and they became people who understand that they have to behave according to the reality that was created de facto. So we are not pragmatists de jure, because we really believe that the land of Israel belongs to the people of Israel, according to the law, according to our belief, according to the promise, according to the promise that brought most of those people who are buried here to come to Israel, because only 200 years ago, only 2,000 people were all around Eretz Israel and in Jerusalem itself. Now we are majority.
If I go to Tel Aviv and I talk to a lot of secular Jews, they would tell me that they would prefer to have a peace and a shared capital with Jerusalem than they would to have a united Jerusalem. And they're 50% of the population.
Tel Aviv lost the war, lost the election to Jerusalem. We had two ideas. The idea of Tel Aviv, that could kept Israel in the boundaries of Tel Aviv, with 3 or 4 million Jews all around, separating themselves from all the history of the Jewish people, from all the history that brought us back into Israel? The Zionist idea, why we came here? Why didn't we go to Uganda or to America?
All right. We understand your point, Ruby. Behind me is Ras Ahmad. What's it called?
Yes, this is Ras Ahmad.
The doctor that bought the land over there.
Dr. Moskovich is a Jew, and he's...
And he tried to build some housing there. Ehud Olmert said you can do it. Bibi froze him. They worked out some kind of compromise, which was looked upon in the whole world, I think by world opinion, as maybe offensive to the peace process, but by you people, you felt you can't give up anymore and you have to be able to do it. What's your position on this, Russellman?
Well, first of all,
By the way, through our
yeah,
patients here.
when you look to Ras El Amut, you see that this is a continuance between the Mount of Olives. We were more than 6 million Jews are being buried here through the years. And why Jews can be buried on Mount Olives and cannot build their houses here and cannot build section. You see, it's empty. It is really makes a lot of sense that a Jewish section would be built here. It doesn't bother anyone. We should live together, because if we are going to bring peace... Now, I must say that I really think that you don't go into provocation once you want to build your state, once you want to build your ideas, once you want to bring Jerusalem to be one and not divided ever. I really think that we should postpone it, but there is a danger, and everyone has to understand what was the idea to build here a section immediately. Because once we are negotiating now, and you have to understand, we started the war immediately when Oslo was announced. We started the war on Jerusalem. Because, you see, the continuance between the Arabic section, which will be the probably the capital of the Palestinian entity, God forbid, state, but a Palestinian entity, is Abu Dis, and you can see it right there. And there is a continuance between the Arab section and the Mount Temple, the Temple Mountain, and the only way to avoid such continuity between the Arab section, between the capital of the Palestinian entity and Jerusalem, is here. That is the place. On one side, we have the cemetery, where 6 million Jews, not 6 million, 4 million Jews are being buried. And on the other side, we have the headquarters of the police, of the southern headquarters, and we have this plot that was owned by Jews during the years. Why shouldn't we build here? We should build here, not now, because it is a matter of provocation. Now we are building Mount Choma, and Mount Choma you can see from here, because there was a strategy. When we released Jerusalem, we had strategy. Because till then, till 67, when Jerusalem was released, we were the Jewish population in Jerusalem in an isolated island, surrounded by Arabs. And we decided now to build all over Jerusalem.
There are many people who say that to waste or to spend lives on accommodating that theory is just not worth it. You know, you're talking land for peace versus lives. Now, I bring you another subject. You are about to agree to give an airport to the Palestinians. You're going to possibly give them a seaport. Don't you think that's an indication? And by the way, Kahalani, your internal minister, met with me Friday. He said it's being worked out. It'll be a done deal. Don't you think that's in effect establishing a de facto state for the Palestinians?
No question. Once you ask why should we lose people because of riots about building Jerusalem, this is a question that should be asked, because are we going to peace or are we going to crisis? Because the Oslo Agreement promised us peace, and it promised us, to the Jewish people, to the Israeli people, that Jerusalem, according to Oslo, will not ever be redivided. You can't have police Palestinians here and Israeli policemen there and run a city. The city of Jerusalem should be run under one under one authority and under one sovereignty.
You're doing that in Zone A right now. You have problems with the Palestinian police. If a man is a refugee and he does something to an Israeli and he jumps over to the border, you can't pursue him. So isn't it what I'm saying to you, and I understand and I admire your conviction, but isn't the government or the world starting to peel away from that conviction?
First of all, I agree that the Zone A and the creation of Oslo is a disaster, and it could bring us to a collision course. I said so 3 years ago. when I was on your show, and I really consistent with this idea, right. Because I really think that if somebody could kill a Jew or Israeli in Nablus and can run away, or can be in Nablus and no one can get a hold of him, and no one is going to send him in or to give him in to the Israeli authorities, that is a breach of contract. But we are living, and as I've said before, when we came to position, we had to face reality. We were pragmatic de facto, because those were the situation. Now we are talking about further on, because you have to understand, if the Palestinian will have a Palestinian state and Dahania, which is the airport in Gaza, and we demanded that the airport terminal will be in a season under Israeli control, in order to let Israel control everyone who comes and goes out from the Palestinian entity in Gaza. And the deep port of Gaza, it is something which is a breach of Oslo agreement, because there is no way that the Palestinian entity will not be surrounded over its boundaries by Israel. There is no way that the Palestinian entity will have, according to Oslo, any kind of boundaries less than Israel. So you made your point, and of course we see what is going on, and we are criticizing our Prime Minister when he is letting the Palestinians to go on with the idea that they will have the control on the airport of Gaza.
Will there be an airport? What do you think?
I really think that we should insist, because by giving them this...
There's not a port.
Of course not, because by giving them this authority, by giving them this sovereignty, we actually announce the Palestinian state. If we do so, then why should we lose people? Why should we fight?
Did you leave the government if that happened?
Oh, no question about it. We were elected in order to save Israel from the possibility of getting to a position that they will face a Palestinian state.
So you would leave the government if there's an airport given?
I will vote non-confidence motion in the government and in the Prime Minister. I really think that the Prime Minister will never let the Palestinian have such an idea, let go with such an idea, that the Dahania airport will become an international airport serving the Palestinian entity, because by that he announced the Palestinian state. There is no question about it.
Dennis Ross, the United States Middle East negotiator, said it's a fait accompli.
It's not a fait accompli, because it was understood between the two parties. Also, when Mr. Rabin, the former Prime Minister, the late former Prime Minister, unfortunately, of Israel, he said that there is no way that the Palestinians will have any kind of international connection and signs of a state. And he was the one who kept the idea that Dahania and the terminal of Dahania should remain on the Israeli side. And because of that, it was planned as so, and it should remain as it was planned. Because if we will go and give up step by step, also the Israelis under the government of the Likud people, then we are giving up everything that we believe in.
All right, but your Prime Minister is being isolated now. Many world capitals don't want to allow him in. They don't want to talk to him. They don't want to see him. And if you take this type of position, has not Yasser Arafat jumped the gun, public relations-wise, on you people? Abba Eben said on my show a couple of weeks ago that if Arafat wanted to declare a state tomorrow, he'd get the 130 countries that would recognize him. Isn't it too late? That's the question.
I hope so, and I have to believe, because we believe during the thousands of years that we return to our country, to our home, to our homeland, to the promised land. I must say that if we won't believe, then we are going to face real trouble, because I really believe that Jews and Arabs should live together in one state. I really know that we have problem. Because of that, we created the idea of the autonomy. You were the one to create the idea of autonomy. We spoke about autonomy. We were talking about 5 or 10 years, but we are always facing the final stage. And the final stage is very important. If the final stage is the Palestinian state, we should say to the entire world, by announcing a Palestinian state, this is a declaration of war on Israel. No way that Oslo will lead us to a Palestinian state. If they are talking now as a pragmatic de facto, because I have to realize reality that we are talking about autonomy, very strong autonomy, then we should, first of all, in order to find solution, really negotiate the final stage, because what will happen with the Jordan River that we can see from here, down there.
What percentage of the country is with you?
I really think that more than 60% of the Jewish population, when they will understand that we are talking and the entire world is talking about dividing Jerusalem, giving up and sending, giving away the Jordan Valley, and bringing to a possibility that the Palestinian will have a state with international connection, with boundaries not surrounding by Israel, most of the people of Israel will reject such an idea. Of course, everyone, if you give them it to them bit by bit or step by step, and you give it to them in really small quantities, then they can swallow everything. But if you will say, and I appreciate the Prime Minister that brought the Americans, and we should negotiate hand with the Americans, although sometimes we don't agree, that we have to go and to find a solution that won't bring to a Palestinian state. If we will insist and we will be consistent and we believe that what we have done till now is the right way, then we will succeed. If we will start to feel that we are maybe not on the right way and we should give up Jerusalem, if you give up Jerusalem, you give up the whole idea, because Zion and Zionism is Jerusalem.
Ruby, as ever, you're always a pleasure. You've heard it from Rudy Rivlin. He's been consistent. He's been on our show many times. He's been an ace reporter for us. In fact, at the Knesset, he feels strongly about his convictions. I'm sure that he would walk out of the government if need be, if a Palestinian state were to be created. And the question is what reality is, what the reality checks are in this country. The country's at loggerheads today. It's very divided. You have a lot of problems between the secular and religious Jews. And you have a tremendous feeling in this country emotionally about Jerusalem. We'll see you next week. You can vote in and write to Ruby if you want to make him Prime Minister. He might be available.